Good afternoon, and welcome to Pay Entry's weekly webinar. Today, we're going to be discussing the best practices to avoid payroll fraud. If at any time during the conversation today we have is a problem hearing me, please let me know by typing into the question box. For some reason, we don't have a chat box. That used to be how I got feedback from the audience, but if you could type into the questions box, then I'll know that. Otherwise, there is a questions box on your screen for you to type in questions that you have throughout the presentation. We will answer all the questions at the end and let you know if we don't have the answer to it, we'll get back to you. Just a few housekeeping tools here or comments. There is a copy of this in PDF format in your webinar that the box that you have on your screen. You can download that or you can ask me for a copy of it afterwards. For all those who have registered for this session, you will be getting a copy of this after it's over, a recording. Okay, so I'm Kathy Graham. I am head of the HR services area at Pay Entry, and I want to welcome you today. First of all, I want to let you know that I'm not an attorney, so the information that we provide in our webinars is actually supposed to be helpful to understanding the topic, and it is not legal advice. So we just want to let you know that. You know, I was on a webinar this week, and it was provided by attorneys, but they had a disclaimer too because they weren't practicing the actual law that they were talking about. So they said they weren't giving legal advice. So I'm definitely not giving legal advice. I'll give you my best answer. Okay, so let's talk about best practices to avoid payroll fraud. You must all be interested in payroll or you wouldn't be attending this session. What is payroll fraud? Well, payroll fraud is one of the most common types of corporate fraud. It impacts roughly about 30% of companies annually. And we don't think about that because we probably don't have a lot of it in our companies, but it does exist. $8.3 million is the number that the FBI gives for losses reported to them from January of 2018 to June of 2019. So in a year and a half, companies lost $8.3 million. So again, what is payroll fraud? It's theft of funds from an employer's business using the company's payroll system in one way, shape, or form. It can be timesheet fraud. It can be ghost employees or phishing emails. Payroll fraud can involve your employees intentionally or unintentionally. There may be mistakes that are made that are not intentional. And then again, it could be committed by third parties who are outsiders. Timesheet fraud is the most common. And ghost employees on that last screen, I was telling you that ghost employees are the second most common that companies see. So sometimes your employees are involved and sometimes they're not. Some common indicators that you have payroll fraud are if you receive a preview email for payroll that you didn't submit, that would be a dead ringer. If you have an indication that a payroll has unexpectedly been transmitted by you, that would be another dead giveaway. Also, if you have changes on your payroll that you did not perform, or you have an upset employee that calls after they don't get a paycheck. You could also see in an audit excessive hours being reported by an employee over a period of time. So what are the best practices to avoid payroll fraud? Well, the first thing you really need to do, and I think most of you probably already do this, is to regularly inspect your payroll report. Look at your new hires. Do you recognize that they are new hires and that they should be new hires. That might be more difficult in a big company. If you're not in HR, you may not know who all the new hires are. So maybe there's a way to cross-reference with HR what new hires are coming on board, just so that you have a list. Any bank account changes that you notice, any pay rate changes that come across that are kind of out of cycle or seem a little odd, address changes, especially if you don't have any employees in California and you're getting someone's address changed to California. And looking at whether or not a person is working above their normal hours worked. If someone's suddenly turning in 60 hours a week instead of 40, then that may be a question that you have. So payroll diversion scams are a really big deal. Let's just say it's Monday morning and your human resources team is playing catch up with the emails from over the weekend. Among the many messages that Michael, the payroll administrator, received is an email request from Bob in marketing, and the email states that Bob just signed up for a new bank account with a new bank, and he wants to transfer his payroll direct deposit from his existing account to the new one. As the efficient employee you hired him to be, Michael immediately sets to updating Bob's payroll information to reflect the change in his account. After all, he wants to make sure that Bob gets his next biweekly paycheck. And it's sent to the right account. So once the update is made, Michael sends a response mail to Bob, back to Bob to confirm the change. Bob thanks him, and that's the end of it. But let's fast forward a month, and Bob sends another email to the human resources team, and this time he's inquiring about why he hasn't received his last two paychecks in direct deposit. Not a good situation. So one of the ways to avoid a situation like this, because there is a lot of phishing emails going on, and we're going to talk about that, but have employees change their direct deposit information through our self-service app. That way there's a two-factor authentication that's required when that's done, and so someone else would not be able to modify that. It takes the employee to make that change. Otherwise, don't accept an email that requesting a change in direct deposit unless you verify it in person or by phone with the employee. Email scams nowadays are predominant when it comes to having you take action. And obviously, we're all busy nowadays, so we pick up the email, we don't second guess it, and we make the change, and it really wasn't the employee that was sending that email. It's a very, very prominent scam today. That email might not be from the employee, and it's a very, as I've said, a very important or a very common scam today. They usually target HR and payroll because obviously they know you're busy and they know that you're the individuals that make those changes. So you can do it directly without going through hoops. Make sure that you email security measures or you implement email security measures so that there is a second guess. You know, we have at PayEntry, we have a lot of different security training that we go through in phishing and those kinds of scams. We are supposed to be on top of. We don't want anybody hacking into our system or having us make bad decisions by being scammed by someone online. And we have so much that happens to us. So we go through a lot of security training, and it's probably a good idea for you to put your employees through some of that training, especially the ones that handle your payroll system. Also use your spam and phishing filters. If you have an IT department, I'm sure they're on top of this, but you can second guess them and make sure that everything's set up so that your system is protected so that no one can get through. Another thing you need to do is confirm that your computers have been updated with antivirus and other software that's installed behind a very secure firewall. You're not in a situation where you want that information to get out. So it is very important for it to be very much protected. Physically secure the computer that you use for processing payroll. If it's a laptop and you have files on there in direct dial-ins, you want to make sure somebody couldn't just pick that up and walk off with it. And it does happen. Or if you take it home to work, take it home with you at night, that it's in your trunk and not in your front seat if you get out at the grocery store to do something. Dispose of any confidential information that you have in an appropriate way. That can be electronic or paper. Most of us have gotten away from a lot of paper, so make sure that you have protocols in place to destroy that information when it's no longer needed. Split your payroll tasks so that one person is responsible for preparing your payroll and another person verifies it and submits it. That way you have a check and balance system. If you have one payroll person and they're doing all of it, that just puts you at higher risk for payroll fraud. Make vacation mandatory. Now, why am I saying make vacation mandatory in the middle of a payroll fraud webinar? Well, because when people are not working, you find out a lot of things. You find out what's not being done or what might be more suspicious if you didn't see it at all. So you have to stay on top of it. The person that's doing the person's job while they're gone on vacation will see things that they may question, and that's why you make vacation mandatory, at least a week. You know, we work with a lot of credit unions too, and they have this in their handbooks that you must use at least 1 week of vacation each year, and that is a banking rule. And that's so that you have some oversight or someone else doing the job for at least 1 week out of the year. Also, use a timekeeping method that automates the process of record keeping for time, and make sure that managers have to review it and approve it. If you're turning in timesheets and no one looks at it, or even if it's an electronic system and no one's approving it, then someone could pad their work hours during the week. We have a time and attendance program too. If you're not using it, you might want to look into it, but it does allow tracking and manager approval. Okay, payroll fraud can occur if your system is hacked too, not just through emails and people sitting at their desks, but if your system is hacked, that would be the worst case scenario, I think. If you suspect that there's been a security breach in your system, stop using it. Shut it down or just leave it standing there and call your IT department. That will keep you from infecting other people potentially or allowing it to be worse than it could be if you keep going and don't question the problem that you're seeing on the screen, or if your computer is acting funny and things don't work the way that they used to. That's a sign that someone else may be in your system and may have taken it over. So it's very important for you to pay attention to using your computer and how it works, and reporting if it's not working the right way, reporting that to your IT department so they can get involved. Okay, this is one of our brief webinars. Let's see. I have a question here, and I'm hoping that someone, Adina is on this call. Adina, let me see if I can unmute you. I want you to, there's a question. I'm in California. Is it legal to make a vacation mandatory? And you know, in California, it may not be. Let me see if I can find Adina on here, and I'm going to unmute you. Okay, Adina, if you can unmute yourself and answer that. Yes, I can hear you. Can you answer that that question?
Absolutely. So you do not have to offer vacation in California, but if you choose to offer it, you do have a right to approve or not approve it based on your business needs. So you can require employees to take vacation. That is fine.
Okay, I knew she would know. Adina Glincher is one of our new adds to the HR services team, and she is practicing in California and has her certification in California. So I knew she would know the answer to that. She keeps me in line. Okay, are there any other questions? Well, we're here if you need us at any time. We have a compliance package that will keep you up to date on all the state and federal laws and some other things that we can help with, like handbooks. But let us help you focus on your business while we concentrate on your compliance. We appreciate your coming today. We do have a special webinar coming up on Wednesday. Adina will be presenting this, and it is on the the new COVID sick pay law that's coming out in California. So if you have employees in California, if you have more than 25 employees in California, you will want to tune into that. If not, it might be an interesting thing to increase your knowledge. So we hope to see you all there virtually, and hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for attending.